You might see players shake hands and exchange jerseys before and after a match. Sure, this seems very gentlemanly, but trust me when I say that some players have behaved so badly outside the pitch that they've got locked up in prison. I've got 10 of them in mind, and you'd be shocked to find out who they are. Number 10. Manchester United fans will have fond memories of Mason Greenwood. How can they forget when he was once the hottest young prospect on the team? The promising striker was tipped to be the next best thing in a red jersey, and things seem to have been going according to plan for the young lad up until he got arrested and detained in January 2022. So what exactly did this sweet-faced player do to warrant losing his freedom? Well, Greenwood was accused of all sorts of nasty stuff, including physical and sexual assault, as well as murder threats. Who would have thought that Greenwood was capable of such? Although nothing has been confirmed yet, the accusations are still being investigated. However, his dreams of playing at the highest level of football with United have been crushed because the people in charge at the club have disassociated themselves from the player and any controversies surrounding him. Luckily for Greenwood, he was granted bail, and even though his time in England seems to be over, he now plays for La Liga side Getafe. Meanwhile, he'll be keeping his fingers crossed about being cleared of all charges so he can play football at the highest level once again. Number 9. Another player who found himself behind bars for similar charges as Greenwood is Manchester City's Benjamin Mendy. Although in his case, as many as 5 women have pointed accusing fingers at him. He was charged with sexually assaulting these ladies right inside his Cheshire home between October 2020 and August 2021. And after first considering locking him up at the HMP Alt course in Liverpool, the judge changed his mind and had him transferred to a more secured stronghold in Manchester. Sadly, he spent the Christmas of 2021 in the cooler, but things were to take a turn for the better sooner than he expected. Because after spending 5 months under lock and key, Mendy was cleared of all charges and allowed to go home. But at this point, Manchester was no longer his home, as the heartbreak of being tried and locked up forced him to leave England and move back to France. Number 8. Would you believe it if I told you that Ian Wright, of all people, has seen the inside of a prison cell? I bet you wouldn't, but it's 100% true. The former Crystal Palace and Arsenal player, who is now a soccer analyst and journalist, once spent 2 weeks in a Chelmsford prison for failing to pay his insurance and driving fines in 1982. He's told this story several times live on air, and he admitted that his prison experience helped shape him into a more responsible citizen of the UK. Law enforcement agents would be glad to hear this, being that Wright had a pretty rough upbringing, and hanging out on the streets with the hoodlums wouldn't do him or his community any good. Number 7. Now Ian Wright's wrongs are minor when compared to those of Marlon King. You probably don't remember him, but he used to play for Birmingham City and Wigan Athletic. And while he wasn't the best striker of the ball, he sure knew how to hit women in the face. King was arrested and detained for a period of 18 months for beating up a woman and breaking her nose. I'm sure his teammates would have wished he could hit the soccer balls the same way. Anyway, the unfortunate drama unfolded in December 2008 when King was hanging out in a nightclub with his pregnant wife. We're not too sure what started the fight, but we do know that King was blamed and locked up for it. But that's not where it ends, because in 2014, King also received a 3-year alcohol ban for driving recklessly on multiple occasions. At this point, the Jamaican international grew tired of life in England, so he moved his family to Zambia, where they currently reside in a 200-acre estate. Hopefully, he doesn't beat up any more women in Africa. But if you think assault is bad, just wait till you hear why this next footballer went to prison. Number 6. Just like Marlon King, Lee Hughes wasn't the most popular striker in England. It's true he had a good run with West Bromwich Albion, but he made the news for more drastic actions than his goal scoring. Did you know that Hughes actually killed someone? The ugly incident happened in 2004 when he was cruising around in his brand new Mercedes-Benz. Unfortunately, he caused an accident that killed a passenger in the other vehicle involved. Now you would think that the striker would hop out of his car to check on the person worse affected, but he didn't. Instead, he decided that running away from the scene was his best option. Of course, he was later caught, after which he was handed a 6-year jail term and a 10-year driving probation. He got out of prison in 2010, and he hasn't caused any fatal accidents ever since. Number 5. The next player on our list wouldn't surprise anyone the least bit. It's Joey Barton, of course, and when you consider how hot-headed he used to be during his playing days, you would expect him to have been locked up several times in his life. The former Manchester City player was so notorious that he actually beat up his own teammate, Ousmane Dabo. This was in 2008, and Manchester City smacked him with a 4-month ban for his unruly actions. He did plead guilty to assaulting and causing bodily harm to Dabo, but that wasn't the incident that sent Barton the Notorious to jail. He spent 77 days behind bars for assaulting a pedestrian in Liverpool, and he's quite lucky to have escaped more prison time for his assault on other individuals. For now, Barton has taken his hothead to Bristol Rovers in England's League One as head coach, and if the players there have heard anything about him, then it will be in their best interests to follow his instructions to the letter. Number 4. The next player on our list is Patrick Kluivert, who made a huge name for himself playing for Barcelona and AC Milan. But before then, did you know that Kluivert also killed a person during his time at Ajax? He was just an exuberant 19-year-old when he got into an accident that would prove fatal for an Ajax fan named Martin Pootman. And while his youth and the unintentional circumstances surrounding the accident stopped him from going to an adult prison, he was still put into detention and had to undergo community service for reckless driving. It's been a long time since those unfortunate turn of events, and Kluivert moved on to become one of the greatest Dutch players in history. After retirement, he also acted as an assistant coach for the Cameroon national team between 2018 and 2019, and he's currently the sporting director at Ajax. Number 3. Now, if you remember how intimidating Duncan Ferguson was in his playing days, you shouldn't be shocked to hear that he too has been locked up once in his life. The big man who currently coaches Forest Green Rovers in England's League One used to be one of Scotland's deadliest strikers. And when I say deadly, I mean it in every sense of the word. Because while playing for Dundee United, Ferguson used to muscle through opposition defenders to get his goals, and those who tried to stop him got a headbutt for their troubles. This was the case with John McStay, who was a defender for Wraith Rovers at the time. Ferguson once got into it with McStay and drove a wicked headbutt through the Wraith Rovers man. For his actions, he earned 3 long months in prison. Thankfully, the only headers Ferguson was giving out after this incident was for the sake of goals and defensive clearances. Number 2. Another former Manchester United player enters our list, and this time it's the legendary George Best, who is actually regarded as one of United's greatest players ever. However, there was nothing great or legendary about what he did to find himself locked up in prison. The year was 1984, Best got drunk, drove recklessly, assaulted a policeman, and even refused to post bail. Yeah, he was a reckless lad off the pitch, and he got hit with a 12-week jail term for his troubles. Sadly for him, this was during Christmas, and I'm sure he didn't get any gifts from Santa inside the Ford Open Prison, where he was incarcerated all through the holidays. Number 1. At number 1, we have the most famous and most skillful footballer to have ever spent time in jail. We're talking about the great Ronaldinho, who got busted alongside his brother in 2020 for entering Paraguay with fake passports. In his defense, the Barcelona legend claimed he had no idea that the passports were fake, but that didn't stop the judge from throwing him and his brother into an Asunción prison, where they would spend 5 scary months before being released on separate bails of $200,000 each. And yeah, Ronaldinho had to celebrate his 40th birthday locked behind walls filled with drug dealers and killers. So guys, do you know any other footballers who've been to jail? Don't hesitate to share in the comments section below. And while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.